Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Facebook.com/We Are Rogue Matter, YouTube.com/Rogue Matter, Twitch.tv/We Are Rogue Matter, and Twitter.com/Rogue_Matter. We take this wonderfully produced video and turn it into the greatest podcast known to man, the Rogue Wave podcast. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by my cohort in crime, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. Well, it's even better than fine because I want to welcome our special guest today. We have the lovely and talented Sarah Booth from the hit Amazon Prime show Three Pines. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We are doing great, and we are excited to have you on. Now, we talked a little bit pre-show about how Three Pines, for me personally, I'm enjoying it so much. It's so refreshingly different than the stuff that we normally cover. The Star Wars stuff, the Marvel stuff, things of that ilk. And it's great. It's a really, really great show, and I love your character in it. I mean, I'm genuinely excited for everything that's happening. Tell us about your experience and the reception you're getting.
Of course. So when I originally got the audition breakdown, I saw who was behind this project, which is the creators of the Crown, and I was like, thanks, guys, but pretty sure you're going to go with like a name actor or someone that has a little bit more weight behind them. And I had been auditioning for the casting director for many, many years. So
Okay.
I was just had this like, oh, thank you so much for even thinking of me. I'm just going to throw spaghetti at the wall and like go big and just do an audition that makes me feel happy and playful. So that's what I did. And I kind of forgot about it. And about a month later, my agent called me and she said, remember that Three Pines audition? They really loved you, but they think like it was way too big. Like, take it down, just retape, but give them like the grounded version. I was like, sure. Did that. Was able to meet the producer and the director via Zoom a couple weeks later, and then we did a work session together and found out I got the part a few days after that.
How is it auditioning over Zoom? I got to imagine it's frustrating.
It's a whole new world is what it is. It's a whole medium that you have to get used to. But usually the first rounds are done by self-tape now. Mm-hmm. So I just have a ring light and my cell phone, and I just tape myself at home and then send it into casting, which I really like because you can basically be anywhere and do your job. So you don't have to be in LA. You don't have to be in New York.
Yeah.
So I think it's giving everyone a little bit more quality of life to,
Oh, absolutely.
In a very expensive city.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Is it difficult gauging reaction? Like, how is it being in the room though, versus doing, I had a friend do like a video interview and he's like, it was the strangest thing ever because I couldn't gauge whether or not like what we were doing. Like, sometimes you feed off of what the other people are seeing, but was it dramatically different for you?
For me, I actually enjoy it better because I feel like it's difficult to go in and perform a character and also do a job interview at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of like it because I don't have to drive there. I just leave my work there. I turn my computer off and walk away. But yes, there is something about being in the same room with people where you can, if you really get along, you'll just feel that. And we lose that in the Zoom room for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Three Pines, it's starring Alfred Molina. You play the small town police officer who's assigned to work on a murder case that Alfred Molina is brought in as a detective to help solve. And it's funny too because it has kind of like a Fargo vibe to it in my mind. Like I'm watching this and I'm getting that vibe a lot. But I remember the lead character Cece, who is at the crux of the mystery itself. She's the victim. I remember like. It was such a well done pilot in the sense that, when she was murdered, and you don't know who did it, obviously, it just, I was like, man, I'm glad they did a great job of setting up like a villain. They set up this villainous mystery, and it was, I don't know. I just thought it was really, really well presented, so that now you do have all of these potential whodunits. The actual the actual murderers could be anybody in the town, and I
Yeah.
thought that was super unique. Now, reading the script, was that your reaction, or did you have a different reaction reading the initial script?
Well, I actually read the books as well as the script. So when I auditioned for the character, I, did my research and saw that the character in the books is quite different than the character that they wanted to create for the series. So I
Mhm.
had a lot more liberty to play around with that, which was fun.
That's
And
cool.
in the books, there's just so much detail. So I really was able to, dive in and feel that hatred for Cece. And what's really fun is that it's true. By the end of that first episode, you're kind of like, what if it was all of them? Because
Right.
she was just a witch.
Yeah.
So a lot
Yeah.
of people texted me when she got barbecued,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I was so looking forward to her dying."
I didn't wanna say it. I didn't wanna say it because I didn't wanna sound like a bad person, but I'm like, "Man, that felt good." It felt good to see her go in that
Yeah,
sense because they do such a great job of setting that up. It's amazing.
yeah, they really
Um,
do.
yeah, and it is a
Just so you
spoiler,
know.
but it's the first episode, so, you'll
Yeah,
you'll
yeah. Well,
you'll
what's
get
fun is that you'll get a murder every week. So there's 4 books in the first
yeah,
season, and each book is 2 episodes. So you get a weekly whodunit, but then also the overarching storyline that concerns the missing and murdered Indigenous women.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I thought, yeah, I mean, in terms of structure, I mean, it's funny too, sometimes you can just watch a show and you're like, "Wow," I mean, it's amazing that like you watch some shows and you're like, I don't know how much planning they did for this, but this show is just so finely crafted. It's just like I said, very very refreshing. Like you just know it's going to be quality every week. You're not getting. There's no gimmicks in this. I feel like it's just solid storytelling and well crafted.
yeah.
Um,
And I was hired, and about 2 weeks later, I found out who was playing Armand Gamache, and I was like, oh, like everything just made sense. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is gonna be big. Like
yeah,
taking on Alfred, that's huge. Yeah.
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 Talk to us about that. I wanted to know, like, what's it like sharing screen time with him and working with him. He's a tremendous actor. He's had such a great career.
Yeah, he's had an incredible career. And just, the first thing that my husband showed me when he got cast was like, he's like, Indiana Jones. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was him.
You throw me the
So
idol, I'll throw you the whip.
yes, he's just had so many iconic roles that were also, like one scene, Boogie
Yeah,
Nights. And I just think he makes such good choices and bold choices that, he just stands out as an actor. And he's also an incredibly funny human being. Kept
that's
us
great.
laughing between takes. He has just great humor, and he was trained in the theater, so he very much treated our ensemble cast, which is big, as like a theater group. We were just, there's no hierarchy, there's no ego. He was so generous with his time and his thoughts, and run lines before scenes. If you did something in the scene that he liked, he'd come up to you after and be like, oh, that was fantastic. Like he's just such a nice human being, and also set the tone on our set that there's no issues during the shoot,
Yeah.
which was just wonderful.
Talk to us about your career in general. How did you get started? How did you get to be where you are? What was your rogue journey?
Sure. So when I was in high school, I was in a small, tiny like farm town, which is actually about an hour from where we shoot the series, and I didn't think, acting was ever a profession or something that I could do in my life. And in my last 2 years of high school, they started an arts program, and I just got hooked. I then auditioned for theater school, did 3 years of theater school, and got out into the world and just started auditioning, did a couple French series, and then moved to Toronto, did some stuff there, moved to LA, did some big gigs there, which actually really changed my career when I came back to Canada, because I did Law and Order and American
Right.
Horror Story. So yeah, big shows. And when I got back to Canada during the pandemic, it just elevated my resume, and I just started working nonstop when I came back.
That's amazing. I mean, what was the biggest struggle you had at any point?
I think the biggest struggle for me was finding good representation,
Okay.
because when I would receive auditions, I would usually, get good feedback, get a call back or some interest or something like that. But especially when you're in Los Angeles, you're working 5 different jobs. You can't even get an agent or a manager, and you're just like, what am I doing with my life? So that was definitely, it was hard, being
Yeah.
in Los Angeles, but I think that I have, a pretty good work ethic and just kept on pounding the pavement. And one of my favorite jobs that I have in Los Angeles was doing the live stunt show at Universal Studios.
Okay.
So like an unabridged version of the movie Waterworld, but just full on stunts.
Okay.
So, driving a boat, driving through fire, zip lining, beating people up. So fun. So I did that job for about 3.5 years when I was in Los Angeles, and just met so many people. And we were performing in front of like 3,000 people 5 times a day. So that was probably like my favorite side job that was really more involved in the industry.
So I find sometimes, Hassan and I are both comic book creators and artists. Sometimes I fight, over the years, I fought so hard to get over the mountain, right? To get the recognition or to get the job or whatever the case is, that sometimes I end up with no energy, right? I'm like, I used all my energy to get where I'm going. And now it's like, oh man, now I got to deliver again. Do you ever feel that pressure? Is that pressure off now because you have these high profile roles that you're able to kind of really just, all you have to do is focus on the work itself?
I don't think I'm at that level yet.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that this will put me on the map somewhere, which is great.
Yeah.
And what I think is really exciting is that people are going to discover me through this role, which is pretty comedic, but then they'll go and, look at the rest of the body of my work, which is very dramatic.
Okay.
Pretty much all of it is dramatic. So I think that'll be really interesting to see where my career goes after this, if it's going to go more towards dramatic or comedic, or I would like to keep both, obviously, because when you get pigeonholed as an actor, it's it's nice to work, but after a while you're like, okay, can I just like do something else, please? But I definitely feel like I will have some really great opportunities coming my way in the next little bit, because the show, has wheels and it's hot right now. So I think I just have to make smart choices right now and see where that leads.
More mountain climbing for you.
Yeah, it's just like a different mountain,
Yeah.
Just
no, you got to the top and then you look up. Oh, there it is. You still got to go. Still going. It's funny you mentioned the comedy versus drama, because every time you're on screen, it is kind of like I smile. I legitimately smile, not just because I knew we were going to interview, but also because I'm kind of like, like your character brings this almost this warmth to every scene she's in, and this, she's very genuine and she's just very upbeat and optimistic. So even when, she's either sitting there like, well, why would we even be here? Like she's, when she's questioning Alfred Molina in the first episode, like, why are you even here? Because she was electrocuted. Like it just every time you're on screen, I feel like you bring like an air of just positivity. So I feel like comedy seems to work with you. Do you enjoy it? Do you like it more than drama, or is there like a different bucket that you would that you prefer of the two?
I think comedy scares me more because it's a lot harder to pull off. So when we started doing this series, I was really lucky that I had Sam Donovan, who has directed The Crown and is the main director on her. He was like, I felt so comfortable with him, and I never felt like, oh, if I do something like that doesn't work, I'll feel ashamed or whatever.
Right.
I never had that feeling on set. So I would just try anything. And like sometimes he would come up to me and be like, no. And I'd be like, okay, great.
That was nice, but don't do that ever again.
Exactly. He's like, that's not her. Like, okay. But the fact that I had that liberty, I think we found so many cool moments.
Yeah.
I was just constantly every take, like, okay, what like, what are my senses? What can I touch? What can I smell? What can I, she's a little bit like has puppy energy to her.
Yeah.
So
that's a very good way to describe it.
Yeah, she wants to please people. She's always like sniffing something out. She's just like, she loves food. She's food motivated. But I think because I was so spoiled in this situation, I feel like if I get cast in my next role and it's comedy, I'm going to be nervous because I won't have like my security blanket of Sam, So I definitely want to do more comedy because I feel like it's very natural to me. It's very close
Yeah.
to who I am as a human, but I also love doing drama.
Okay.
I'm just intrigued because you said you had to dial it down. I can't imagine that
I know.
character dialed up any more than she already is. So
I know. Well, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I have my audition saved from when I did it. So I think I'm gonna dig them up and see how insane that first audition was.
You should definitely post that
Yeah.
no question. I think that'd be amazing.
especially as the show gets bigger and bigger, that's going to be quite amazing.
Well, I think it just really encourages actors. Like, we get scared, especially when it's a series regular. You're like, okay, I have to it's television. I have to downplay everything because, I'm on screen a lot and, nobody, it's just like, they tend to be more like, throw it away. And with her, because I didn't think I would get it, I was literally like, fuck it. No, I was just like, Andrea, who's the casting director, I'm like, she's gonna love this. So I just did it for her, really. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. So you mentioned the Law and Order, your appearance, but you're also in Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
Now, that's more of our world, right? The Star Trek world and universe and things like that. What was it like entering that and being involved in more of a pop culture-y kind of show?
Yeah, it was, first of all, so exciting because living in Toronto, we have a couple Star Trek shows here. So we audition for them quite frequently.
Yeah.
But, it's tough to get a role on those shows because it's just such a high profile show.
Sure.
And there, so many actors are willing to just come do a cameo. So
Right.
I had auditioned many, many times, and this was the last day before we moved away from Los Angeles, and our apartment was packed up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have an audition for Star Trek. I have to do it before we leave. And it was just like one of those things where it's like, let's just get it done and move on. And by the time we got back to Canada, I heard that they were interested. And I was like, finally, because, we've auditioned so many times. And just being part of that show and going to that set was incredible. Like the 270 degree stage that they used on the Mandalorian. They used the oh my gosh, my
the
husband's
volume. Awesome. They call it the volume, right?
Thank you.
I think
The volume was awesome to work with because, using your imagination is super fun, but when you're able to, everyone who's in the scene is seeing the same thing, that just kind of elevates the whole experience. And there's so much practical props, and it felt like theater and film were mixed together. It was awesome. Siniqua, oh my god, she is just fantastic. She was breastfeeding and she's the number one on the show, and in between scenes she was like, do you guys want to play charades? And I was like, who are you? This is amazing. She's just really sets the tone for that set too, and I feel like that set is so inclusive, and it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And you can make an entire career now. You can appear at any convention you want to.
Yes, I went to a convention shortly after the episode played, and two guys were just walking by my booth, and they're like, you played Luda on episode, I don't even know who, but episode blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I did. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a good. Look, we're very happy for you. Three Pines is very successful, so I think you're going to be launched into something big. But if it hadn't happened, you literally could make an entire career just going to conventions now and being Luda
all by itself. I've seen it done.
Autographs like $150. You get it. It would be done. You can make a living. It's harder life. I think you're making the right moves now.
Totally. Hey, there's always, it's always a plan B for sure.
Something to fall back on. There's always something to fall back on.
That's like a plan D.
Yes.
Let's hopefully.
Let's keep it there.
We'll keep it at that. And finally, you talked about, everything you do is dramatic. You have a one-take film called Last Call.
I do.
It's on Amazon Prime now. Give us the elevator pitch for this.
Sure. It's a one-take feature film, so it's 80 minutes long, no cuts, no hidden cuts either. And it's a split screen oneer that is basically a man who is struggling and decides to call a suicide hotline, misdials. My character picks up and tries to save his life. So what you're watching is two ends of a conversation happening.
And how much pressure is that to do the one take?
A lot of pressure. Yeah, the sound technician said that he had to turn down my microphones for the first 15 minutes because all you could hear was my heartbeat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it was fantastic because I haven't done theater in a long time, and being able to like bring it all back together was
That's
just
what it
great.
essentially is, isn't it? Even
Exactly.
though, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't even
just
think about
made
it
it with
like that.
like 8. We made it with like 8 different, 8 people on our crew. It was such a tiny little independent film, but it's won a bunch of awards, and it's won me a bunch of awards. So I'll take it.
That's amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, big fans of the show, very excited and just very excited for you. And again, thank you for joining us. Tell the folks out there where they can reach you online.
Sure. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's Sarah Film Booth. And on Twitter, it's the same thing, SarahFilmbooth.
Fantastic. Sarah Booth from Three Pines. Go check it out on Amazon Prime. It's streaming. We're up to episode 4 right now, I believe, and 5 will be coming on Friday. Well worth your time and investment. When we come back, more Rogue Wave podcast. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.